Across the Sahel, a major shift in power is unfolding, one that is realigning alliances, shaking old empires, and redefining who controls Africa's natural wealth. To understand this rapidly developing situation, let us begin with the latest verified report.
In Niger, a different kind of confrontation is brewing up. It's about the country's vast reserves of uranium and who gets to control it. Niger's junta have announced that they are putting their uranium from the Somair mine on the open market. Somair, once majority controlled by French nuclear giant Orano, was nationalized by the junta in June, stripping Orano of any control. Orano says uranium has already been removed from the Somair site without its consent. It's calling the move illegal and a breach of an international ruling issued in September. The ruling barred Niger from selling or facilitating the transfer of any uranium produced by Somair. The company also warns of further action, including criminal proceedings if this material is diverted or sold in violation of its rights.
Niger has taken a bold and unprecedented step in its history. The military government has placed its uranium from the Somair mine on the open market, firmly ending France's decades-long dominance over the sector. For more than 50 years, the French nuclear giant Areva, now called Orano, controlled Niger's richest uranium sites. But in June, Niger nationalized Somair, removing French control once and for all. Since then, tensions have escalated dramatically. Orano claims uranium has already been taken from the mine without its authorization, calling the move illegal and a violation of a recent international ruling that bars Niger from selling uranium from Somair. They warn of criminal action if any material is diverted or sold. But Niger rejects those accusations entirely. Authorities say France extracted far more uranium over the years than what was agreed upon, leaving Niger one of the poorest nations on Earth while powering French cities, industries, and nuclear reactors. For the new Nigerian leadership, this is a matter of justice and sovereignty. Their message is clear. The uranium belongs to Niger. We will sell it to whom we want. Reports now indicate that new buyers, Russia, Iran, and Turkey, are already in discussions. And this is where Europe's panic begins. Nearly 1/4 of the European Union's uranium supply comes from Niger. France alone relies heavily on Nigerian uranium to power its nuclear reactors, which in turn provide nearly 70% of France's electricity. Losing access is not just inconvenient, it's a national energy crisis. Paris also claims the uranium could be intercepted by jihadist groups during transport across Sahelian routes. Yet for decades, uranium moved under French control through the same territories without similar warnings. Critics say France is only raising this narrative now because it no longer dictates the terms. To understand Europe's reaction and the geopolitical consequences, let us turn to the second verified report.
Well, for more on this story, we're joined by our international affairs editor, Angela Diffley. Angela, France and the European Union, they're not delighted by this news, are they?
They're not delighted, no. As the president of Niger says, the general who is leading the junta there, this is our uranium. We will sell it to whom we want, as we wish, when we want. And that is the reality. It's true that this idea that some of it has already been seen. There are reports in international media that some uranium has already been taken to Togo, that it will from there go to Russia. These are reports in international media. In some ways, the Americans, the International Atomic Agency, would prefer Russia than Iran, which is one of the other possibilities. If it's going on the international market, France has no way, Europe has no way, nobody else has any way of stopping Niger selling that uranium to whomsoever it wants. What is also worrying is that in order to get from Niger to Togo in West Africa or to the coast there, it has to cross several areas which are controlled by jihadists. And that in itself is a real security worry for the European Union, for France, that somehow jihadists might get their hands on that uranium as it travels. But the reality is that That is the position we're in. They have chosen to sell it to Russia. Increasingly, as we know, Russia has an important influence in Africa. It is helping many of these former French colonies in their fight against jihadists. Experts don't see their efforts being any more or less successful than the French efforts, but that is what happened.
As the France 24 analyst confirms, no one, not France, not the EU, not any Western institution, can legally stop Niger from selling its own uranium. The Nigerian general leading the country made that position crystal clear. We will sell to whom we want, as we wish, when we want. This declaration reflects a broader regional transformation. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, now united under the Alliance of Sahel States, have adopted a joint strategy of asserting full state control over gold, oil, uranium, and rare minerals. They have expelled French troops, ended defense agreements, and turned toward new partners, especially Russia. Russian influence has expanded quickly. Moscow has already signed nuclear cooperation deals with Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, covering reactors, energy generation, and nuclear fuel supply. These partnerships are part of a larger realignment as Sahel nations seek alternatives to Western dominance. To understand why this shift is happening, we must look at Niger's paradox. For decades, Niger exported high-grade uranium to Europe, yet relied heavily on Nigeria for electricity. When Nigeria cut electricity exports earlier this year, Niger's national grid lost nearly half its power overnight. The military government said it was unacceptable for a country sitting on one of the world's richest energy minerals to remain dependent for its own electricity. Their new partnerships aim to break that cycle permanently. Meanwhile, France is watching its influence collapse across West Africa. Once the dominant colonial power in the region, France maintained military bases, controlled strategic industries, and shaped political outcomes. But today, its presence has been rejected in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Analysts note that anti-France sentiment is driven partly by history, partly by unbalanced economic relationships, and partly by failures in security operations, where years of French military presence did not eliminate jihadist threats. The France 24 report highlights another layer. France's declining popularity is not simply due to propaganda. It reflects real public frustration. African governments in the region now find it politically beneficial to cut ties with France and pursue independent strategies. For Europe, Niger's uranium shift is a serious economic and political blow. For Russia, it is a strategic opening. But for the Sahel, it represents something far deeper, a declaration of sovereignty. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are rewriting the rules of engagement. They are demanding control over their land, their resources, and their political future. Whether the world agrees or not, the reality is clear. The Sahel is stepping into a new era. This struggle over uranium is not just about minerals. It is about respect, independence, and power. It is about African nations refusing to remain suppliers of raw wealth while remaining poor. And it is about a continent reshaping its alliances on its own terms. The future remains uncertain. Western pressure may intensify. New alliances may expand, but what is undeniable is that Africa's natural resources are no longer guaranteed to serve foreign interests. The Sahel has drawn a line, and the world is now adjusting to the new reality.